The story of Lewis, Clark, and Sacagawea. A quiet tale of bravery, friendship, and discovery. A long, long time ago, in the early days of the United States, there were still parts of the land that no one had fully explored, at least not by the people who had settled on the East Coast. Great rivers flowed through forests that stretched for miles. Tall mountains rose into the clouds. The West was a place of wonder, mystery, and beauty. In the year 1803, the President of the United States was a man named Thomas Jefferson. That year, he made a big decision. He bought a huge piece of land from France. This land was called the Louisiana Territory, and it almost doubled the size of the country, but no one really knew what was out there. Were there giant rivers, wild animals, gold volcanoes? No one knew for sure. So President Jefferson asked his friend, Meriwether Lewis, to lead a special journey. The mission was simple to say, but hard to do. Explore the land, find a path to the Pacific Ocean, meet the Native American tribes, and learn about the plants, animals, and rivers. Lewis asked his old friend William Clark to join him. Clark was strong and brave, and very good at drawing maps. The two men prepared carefully. They gathered a team called the Corps of Discovery, made of about 30 men. Some were hunters, some were boatmen, others were good at making peace with strangers. They brought Seaman, Lewis's big black dog, who would travel the whole way. They packed supplies, dried meat, flour, candles, blankets, notebooks, compasses, beads for trading, and tools for fixing boats. They carried weapons too, not to fight, but to be safe. In the spring of 1804, the Corps set off up the Missouri River in boats. The water was muddy and strong. They had to row against the current, which was very hard. Sometimes they pulled the boats with ropes from the shore. They camped by the river each night, lit fires, cooked simple meals, and looked at the stars. The land around them was wild and beautiful. They saw deer leaping through grass, flocks of birds flying above, and trees that had never been cut. Some nights, they heard wolves howling. Some days it rained so hard they could not move. They wrote in journals every day. Lewis described the new animals they saw. Clark made careful maps. The men kept moving forward. As they traveled farther, they met many Native American tribes. The land had always been home to indigenous people, and Lewis and Clark wanted to speak with them. Sometimes the meetings were peaceful and the tribes offered food or advice. Other times, the tribes were careful and unsure. The explorers needed help to speak many different native languages and to stay safe. That help came from a young woman named Sacagawea. Sacagawea was a Shoshone woman who had been taken from her people when she was a child. Now she was living with the Hidatsa tribe, and she was married to a French trader named Toussaint Charbonneau. When Lewis and Clark met her, they quickly saw that she was very special. She spoke Shoshone and Hidatsa, and her husband spoke French. One of the explorers spoke French and English. That meant Sacagawea could help translate between the tribes and the expedition. But there was more. She had grown up in the land they were about to explore. She knew the rivers, the plants, the mountains in which berries were safe to eat. She knew how to find roots that cured sickness, and she was kind and calm, even when things were hard. Sacagawea agreed to join the journey, carrying her baby boy on her back the whole way. Her baby's name was John Baptiste, but everyone called him Pomp. He was just a few months old, but he was quiet and happy. Wrapped in a blanket and strapped to a board, he bounced gently as Sacagawea walked or rode beside the boats. The land ahead became harder. There were wide rivers and deep woods. There were days when the team was cold, hungry, and tired. One time, their boat tipped over and many important things almost floated away. Sacagawea stayed calm and helped save books, supplies, and tools from the water. She never shouted or panicked. Everyone trusted her. One day, the court reached the Rocky Mountains. The path forward was blocked by snow and stone. They would need horses to cross, but where would they get them? They found a Shoshone tribe nearby and asked for help. When the tribe's leader came to meet them, something amazing happened. Sacagawea stared at the man and began to cry. It was her brother, Kemawate, who she hadn't seen in years. Because of this, the tribe agreed to give them horses and help. It was a joyful moment for everyone. Without Sacagawea, they may not have made it across the mountains at all. Crossing the Rockies was one of the hardest parts of the trip. The snow was deep, food was low, the men were cold and weak. But they kept going because they believed in the mission. Sacagawea kept walking too, her baby safe on her back, her eyes always watching the path ahead. After the mountains came long rivers and rainy forest. The trees were tall and green. The sound of rushing water filled the air. Birds flew overhead, and the wind smelled like pine and moss. And then one day they saw it, the Pacific Ocean. Waves crashed against the shore. The sky was wide and gray after more than a year of travel. They had made it. The journey west was complete. They built a fort near the ocean and stayed through the winter. It was cold and damp, but they were proud. They wrote more notes, fixed their maps, and gathered supplies. When spring came, they turned around and made the long journey home. By the time they returned to the east, 2.5 years had passed. They had traveled over 8,000 miles, drawn maps, made peace with many tribes, and brought back news of a beautiful and wild land. People welcomed them with cheers and celebration. Lewis and Clark became famous, but Sacagawea did not ask for praise. She returned to her quiet life, raising her son and living with her people. Though her name was not always in the spotlight, everyone who knew the journey understood the truth. Without Sacagawea, the expedition might have failed. She had been a guide, a translator, a rescuer, and a friend. She had walked with strength and heart every step of the way. Now, as you rest, picture the world as they saw it, rivers glowing in the moonlight, mountains wrapped in snow, a brave girl carrying her baby, walking through wind and rain, never turning back. The world is big, and there is so much to explore, but with courage, kindness, and calm, anything is possible. Close your eyes, breathe softly, and dream of trails, stars, and gentle rivers.